копия сценария. Можете, да, посмотреть. Если хотите, просто на телефон нащелкайте просто себе сценарий, часть, вот здесь есть.
Не, вы лучше Лоле дайте, я как-нибудь это. Все нормально.
Точно нормально?
Да, все нормально. Спасибо. Так уже будем переводить. Что делать? Я уже настроилась без сценария, так что переживем.
Раз, раз. Раз, раз. Уважаемые гости, просим всех занять свои места. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seat. Еще раз повторяю, уважаемые гости, прошу принять всех свои места. Всем сесть.
Dear guests, please take your seats. We are starting our panel discussion. Thank you.
Yes, да.
Dear colleagues, good morning. Dear colleagues, good morning. Can you hear my voice? Am I audible, dear colleagues? Thank you.
Уважаемые дамы и господа, просим приветствовать спикеров панельной сессии «Инвестиционный потенциал Центральной Азии».
Dear ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the speakers of the panel discussion, the investment potential of the Central Asia.
Thank you very much for joining us today for the session that is at the core of today's forum, because the topic of today's discussion is the investment potential of Central Asia. And this is why we are all here, to discuss the investment potential of these countries. Today we have an illustrious panel that came together to discuss this important topic. One of the participants is running late, unfortunately, and that is Mr. Umurzakov, who is the Deputy Prime Minister of Uzbekistan, and also our host today, because he's also the Minister of Foreign Investment and Trade, which is the agency that organized today's forum. He will join us later, but let me quickly introduce the rest of the panel. We also have with us Mr. Aziz Aliyev, who is the Deputy Chairman of the Cabinet of Ministers of Kyrgyz Republic. Welcome to today's panel. Then we also have Mr. Kairbek Uskenbayev, Minister of Industry and Infrastructure Development of Kazakhstan. Then we have Niamatullah Hikmatulozada, Assistant to the President on Economic Issues for Tajikistan. Then we also have Mr. Baghdad Amreev, General Secretary of the Association of Turkic States. And from the international organizations, we have my colleague, Stephanie von Friederberg, who is the Senior Vice President for Operations of International Finance Corporation, which is part of the World Bank Group, and Mr. Nobumitsu Hayashi, who is the Deputy Chairman of the Japan Bank of International Cooperation. So welcome, everyone. When Mr. Umurzakov joins us, he will give us his perspective on the Uzbekistan economy and on the prospects for international investment in Uzbekistan. But let me start with a warm-up question, because we are very fortunate today to have a number of representatives of the governments of the countries in the region. And I would like to ask them a provocative question to start with. Господа представители стран Центральной Азии, начну с вас.
Dear participants of the Central Asian countries, I would like to start with you. Participants from the governments of the Central Asian countries, can you tell me in 3-4 minutes time frame why the investors have to invest in your countries? What features, what advantages do your countries have that make your countries attractive from investment point of view? Thank you very much. I have a pleasure to find myself in this hall due to pandemic restrictions. Unfortunately, I didn't have much chances to meet with you in person. I would like to thank the government of the Republic of Uzbekistan for a wonderful arrangement of this event. What is the difference between us? Why our countries demonstrate investment attractiveness for potential investments? I would like to say that investments that have been announced yesterday, great investments that we are planning. The president of Uzbekistan said that $125 billion is expected amount of investments until the year of 2026. And we are happy to hear this information. For that, we will need adequate transportation corridors in place. What is the priority of Kazakhstan in this context? First of all, we provide stability and security for investments. It is being secured by the legislation of Kazakhstan. Last year, Kazakhstan has adopted a law that protects the interests of investors in those sectors of economy of Kazakhstan. Those investments will be protected by strategic investment agreements, and the provisions of these legal documents will not change. Kazakhstan has created an international financial center, and within the framework of that center, in order to ensure the rule of law, these relations will be regulated by the British law. So the relationships with investors will be regulated by the British law, and this protects the interest of investors, these provisions. We will increase our investments into transportation infrastructure, logistics infrastructure. We have a lot of transportation corridors that we have to improve. We already have access roads to all logistics centers of our region in Kazakhstan, and all in all, this will create a regional transportation hub. Thank you very much. I think your presentation was quite convincing. Let's turn to Tajikistan. What can you tell us about the investment prospects of Tajikistan? What is attractive feature for investors? I would like to thank our colleagues from Uzbekistan for a wonderful organization of the first International Investment Forum. We hope that this kind of forum will be conducted on a regular basis in our region, because the exchange of experience in the framework of this forum is highly useful. Not only if it will be not only for the benefit of Uzbekistan, but for the benefit of all other Central Asian countries. The business circles will have a platform to meet and exchange their vision, their opinion jointly. And these negotiations and discussions will eventually lead to conclusion of agreements. Why investors should choose Tajikistan? There is a political stability, and the regulatory framework is encouraging. If these indicators are poor or low, the investors will not be interested in investing into a certain country. Therefore, the government of Tajikistan is gradually implementing wide-scale measures in order to enhance the investment attractiveness of Tajikistan. Tajikistan provides to investors the opportunity to develop rich subsoil deposits of mineral resources. Also, there are different sectors of economy that show a high rate of growth. In recent years, we have achieved a principally new level of development thanks to implementation of broad economic reforms. We have built up our investment, industrial and commercial and trade potential. This was recognized at the international arena, the high capacity of our country. During the last 10 years, steady economic growth at the level of 7% per annum was ensured. The private sector is rapidly developing in recent years, and they're contributing to an expansion of the main sectors of economy of Tajikistan. SMEs number is gradually growing in recent years, thanks to more fiscal income into the state budget. Tajikistan is able to develop its social infrastructure. The key areas in social and economic development of Tajikistan has been reflected in the strategic document of the government that covers the period until 2030. We are also looking for creation of joint ventures on the territory of Tajikistan. We are also developing now the green economy. The government has announced the program of accelerated industrialization in all sectors of economy and industry. Nothing stands still. The world is evolving. The changes are happening every day. However, we have to demonstrate a flexibility, a rapid adaptability to transformations. Therefore, the government of Tajikistan is doing its best to attract new investors and to provide them a maximum protection of the interests of their assets. Thank you for your attention. Thank you. I would like to give floor to Mr. Aliyev to listen a little bit about investment prospects of the Kyrgyz Republic. Thank you, dear participants of the forum. I would like to thank you on behalf of the government of the Kyrgyz Republic. I would like to thank the organizers of the first International Investment Forum of Tashkent. We are fully supporting all of the ideas that have been discussed yesterday, will be discussed today. We are wishing that this forum will turn into a Davos forum of the Central Asia. Yesterday, we have listened to an inspiring speech and statement of the distinguished President of the Republic of Uzbekistan, Mr. Mirziyoyev, that has expressed political guarantees for investors. This is paving a sound foundation for investors, for private businesses that is operating in the country and that will be attracted from abroad. this political support that has been demonstrated and political will demonstrated at the highest level of the country, the president who has assured all the potential investors that there will be the guarantees provided by the state in order to protect and secure their rights as investors, it is a very important factor of reliability of investments in any country, and in Uzbekistan in particular. From the very beginning, the Kyrgyz Republic was an active participant of all regional developments. Starting from the very moment of the independence of Kyrgyzstan, it was promoting a liberal trade policy. We were the first countries of ex-Soviet bloc who has joined the WTO. And we are hoping that negotiations of Uzbekistan will become successful, and it will eventually join World Trade Organization. Kyrgyz Republic has optimized its currency and monetary policy, its fiscal policy, its taxation system. Therefore, the foreign investors in Kyrgyzstan may freely convert their profits gained on the territory of the Kyrgyz Republic and repatriate them. This has substantially increased the inflow of private investments into the Kyrgyzstan. As you know, Kyrgyzstan is a landlocked country. However, we have a great ocean by our side. You know, the ocean is China, People's Republic of China, which has different seaports. We have several transit posts on the border with China. We are promoting an integration policy. Historically, Kyrgyz tribes were nomadic tribes. However, during the years of our independence, we have become a country which provides the greatest, biggest bazaar in the Central Asia. We have two large markets where trade of different kind of goods is going on. You know that in the GDP structure, the share of SMEs makes more than 40% of the gross domestic product. Processing, agricultural processing, mining industry are the key industrial sectors of our economy. The businessmen have right to create a joint venture or any enterprise wherever and whenever they want in any part of our country. So this is an investment advantage of Kyrgyzstan. At the same time, Kyrgyzstan has achieved and has attained the status of GSP Plus, like Uzbekistan. We are providing huge investment opportunities for investors who will invest into Kyrgyzstan. Through Kyrgyzstan, you will have access to the world markets. What are the prospective areas of our economy for cooperation with investors? It's a hydropower generation sector. We have an enormous capacity in this sector. 95% of the electricity generated in Kyrgyzstan is being produced by hydropower plants. During many years, we have built several HPP cascades on our mountain rivers. The government of Kyrgyzstan is announced a project for construction of new HPPs, Kambarata 1, Kambarata 2, Narin. hydropower cascade. So a part of hydropower generation, we have other sectors of economy. For example, the projects of renewable energy, production, like companies like Masdar are also interested in these projects. So we are inviting any donors, any international organizations or private donors to invest in our country in the sector of renewable energy generation. Of course, we are also famous with our touristic potential. We would like to develop tourism in Kyrgyzstan and along the Great Silk Road. We would like to develop the tourist infrastructure and our natural recreational sites around Issyk-Kul Lake, in the mountainous areas, the tourism, ski resorts. So I think that we have great potential for future investments. We're inviting investors to use these opportunities. Thank you. I would like to greet Mr. Sardor Umurzakov. Thank you very much for joining us. Mr. Umurzakov, we would like to summarize the previous speakers' words, which all of them have expressed thanks to the government of the Republic of Uzbekistan for organizing this forum, first international investment forum. And we have asked our distinguished speakers to explain in few words what are the strong points of their countries in terms of attracting investments. And now I would like to give floor to you. Thank you. Good morning. I would like to apologize for my a little bit late arrival. Thank you for giving me a floor. First of all, I would like to say that after listening to the President's speech yesterday at the first plenary session, I can add nothing else because he said everything already about our investment potential. However, I would like to add a few things in order to expand certain points. I think the Central Asia, is comprised of 5 countries, and I think that only collaboration of our 5 countries, our synchronous cooperation, would enhance the investment capacity for investors. We can create a mutual investment space. Why? Because the economy of every Central Asian country is unique, one of a kind. Why? Because every country has its own specifics, its own advantages in certain sectors of economy, of industries. What is the main advantage of our economies is the fact that we are not competitors. We are complementing each other. Our economies are complementing each other. They should complement each other. I cannot say that always in practice we are using this potential, this capacity. Maybe at present only to 50% we are using it. However, this is our main advantage by uniting our potential, we can invite much more investors overall than any single country of the Central Asia. During the last 5 years, we're paying great attention to creation of favorable conditions for investors. Without exaggeration, I can say that this is an exclusively a merit of the President of the Republic of Uzbekistan, and also his vision on focusing on neighboring countries has increased significantly in investment potential of our country. On bilateral basis, we are working with our neighboring countries. We are developing a wide range of different we are working in a wide range of sectors and areas. Unfortunately, during the last 3 years, the coronavirus pandemic has undermined our efforts. But anyway, we are moving forward. And what is the share of our mutual trade, bilateral trade of within the Central Asian region? Unfortunately, reply to this question will not be satisfactory. We have to improve this, certainly. Therefore, the first area of our cooperation should be, in my view, to take off all the barriers in our trade relations inside the region, especially when the entire world on a global scale is concerned with food security issues. Also, that was a lesson of pandemic period, that we should take care of food security. We think that it is not a positive factor that most of our food stock we are procuring from foreign countries. Therefore, we have to work seriously in this area. We have to improve our bilateral, multilateral, regional relations. For example, with Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan, we are working on specific projects of industrial cooperation. What does it mean? It means the use of competitive advantages of our economies, creation of products with high added value, those products that will be produced in our region and will be exported abroad, outside the Central Asian region. We have great success stories in this area, but this is only the first phase. I think we should make a more careful, thorough analysis of all the advantages and disadvantages, what were our shortcomings on bilateral basis among the economies of the Central Asian countries, and we should generate projects, joint projects, implementation of which will be to our mutual benefit. Moreover, jointly with some of our colleagues from the Central Asian countries, we can finance cooperative project, joint project. For example, Uzbekistan with Tajikistan has created joint investment funds. In Uzbekistan, it is called a Joint Development Fund. And with Kyrgyzstan as well, we have created this Joint Development Fund. I see here a representative of that fund. So this is already a sound financial infrastructure for financing such joint projects. So we have already created the first building blocks, and the next step is implementation of joint projects. In order to act harmoniously and in order to work together in this area, I have asked my colleague from Tajikistan. Today we have a whole day for discussions. All of you are leaving tomorrow, but still today we have time. Our teams can draft out a step-by-step roadmap, and today, by the evening, it can be ready as a draft roadmap, and we can discuss it jointly with the Ministry of Foreign Trade of the Republic of Uzbekistan. Here is Mr. Kudratov, the Deputy Minister. You can cooperate with Big Four representatives in order to generate an analytical paper that will be used as a concept paper for future joint projects or program with potential investors. Any country of the Central Asia has its own history, its own culture. However, we should understand that economically we will become attractive for foreign investments when we will pave a solid platform, a uniform structure. For example, in the area of tourism, my colleague from Kyrgyzstan has mentioned it, that there is a great untapped tourist potential. Of course, we can develop it, but we have to do certain kind of, if not unification, but simplification of visa processes, other logistics and transportation solutions. You know that just few years ago, several years ago, Uzbekistan was one of the most closed country. However, today, the citizens of more than 100 countries may enter Uzbekistan according to a simplified entry visa process. We are opening up for the world, for other countries of the world. We have to sort out some systematic shortcomings and to move to operational steps. In my opinion, and I would like to address to you, saying that in the Central Asia, there are all favorable conditions for attraction of direct foreign investments. We can increase the volume of these investments. We can increase the volume of the investment projects for implementation. We have a great potential in this area. We can contribute to reduction of the poverty. We have all the prerequisites for transformation into the World Global Workshop. That was the nickname of the People's Republic of China some time ago. We have an untapped potential for development of the renewable energy sources. Here I see among the participants the Minister of Energy of Uzbekistan. He can collaborate, interact in order to implement all these ideas and investment opportunities. This year, on a pilot basis, we are creating a separate industrial zone in Samarkand where other Central Asian countries may implement their investment industrial projects. In any of our countries, on a pilot mode, we can create certain sites, industrial parks, techno parks, let's call them like this, where certain selected projects can be implemented as a first phase. I must confess you that the President of the Republic of Uzbekistan has told not once but many times to all of his team that we should not get seduced with the idea that in Uzbekistan we can move forward without the growth of the same rate of growth of our neighboring countries. It will be impossible. We can achieve an accelerated growth if we move forward together at the same pace. I haven't mentioned the great opportunities of our infrastructure, of our joint infrastructure in the context of connectivity. With our colleagues from Kyrgyzstan, we are discussing transition to construction of the international rail route, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, China. With our colleagues from Turkmenistan, we are discussing the possibility of the multimodal transportation corridor that will connect Central Asia through Turkmenistan with Caucasus. All these areas I would identify as key areas for investments: trade first, secondly, industrial integration, including agro-industry, and third, cooperation in terms of diversification of our transportation corridors and the usage of our logistic opportunities and connectivity. I would like to apologize for explaining my point of view too long. However, I wanted to explain as much as possible, and outstanding potential that we have. Thank you. I hope that investors that are in our hall today have noticed all these advantages, all the benefits that will become a factor of success, successful investments into the regional countries. You have already touched upon the topic of regional integration. I wanted to say about that also. Mr. Umurzakov says, I didn't know your plan. Okay, the moderator says, among us, there are representatives of the international organizations. We would like to listen to their opinion about investments, not only into resources, into industry, potential or capacities, facilities of the regional countries, but also investments into the knowledge that the Central Asia, knowledge capacity that the Central Asian have. What can international organization do in order to support our countries in this regard? I would like to listen to opinion of Mr. Amreev, the General Secretary of the Organization of Turkic States. Good afternoon. I would like to thank Mr. Umurzakov for his kind invitation for participation at this very important international forum, where representatives of leading international organizations are present. I would like to say a few words about our organization, Organization of Turkic States. Our organization covers cooperation and interaction in all spheres of activities of the state. We are engaged in youth subject, on religion, on diasporas, ethnic diasporas, economy. Of course, our priority is economic interaction. And I'm happy to find myself today at this panel discussion. I'm at my place. the state, the head of your state always at every economic summit is highlighting the importance of economic cooperation. Today we're speaking specifically about investments into the Central Asia. What can we do and what have we done to increase this economic cooperation? What the chambers of commerce of our countries have done in order to increase the interaction. The main structure can be creation of joint industrial zones. You know, there is an experience of Turkey which has created industrial zones at the end of the 1980s on the territory of Turkey for foreign investors. Now we are finalizing creation of a joint industrial zone. This will bring our economies together. This will encourage our entrepreneurs from our countries to work together in the framework of the common economic space. Such international economic forums where the participants from the Central Asian countries will take part, but not only from Central Asian countries. You know that our organization includes also Azerbaijan and Hungary. We are working actively on creation of the legal framework. Now we are coming to an end along the course of drafting the agreement on joint trade inside the organization of Turkic countries. This agreement will be incorporating all the member states of our organization. This will be a major trade agreement that will cover all kinds of services and investments as well. This will be the first stone in the road that will be paved towards the free trade space. I would like to say that in our countries, the member states of the Turkic organization, we are carrying out a lot of activities, holding a lot of forums on different topics, like on tourism. You know that we have announced Samarkand as a tourist capital. And in all these spheres, the ministries, respective ministries of our member states are actively participating, interacting with each other. So I would like to wish all the success in all our efforts, of course, for successful implementation. First of all, adequate infrastructure is required. I said that we are working in Samarkand already, in Baku, in Azerbaijan. Two rounds will be held where all of the member states will participate. And also we have to intensify our activities on creation of different institutions like foundations, funds. Also we have to focus our efforts on development of human capital, On management of our joint actions, we have seen, we have listened to the speech of the distinguished President Mirziyoyev, that Uzbekistan has great investment potential. However, it has not been used to full yet, and he has a wonderful team. I would like to stress that the role of a leader is important. Of course, in every respective sector of our interaction, we have leaders. Next summit of the Turkic states will take place in Uzbekistan at the end of this year, and since we are in Uzbekistan now, we will speak more about investment potential of Uzbekistan. We can speak endlessly about all the opportunities. You have allocated to me 3-5 minutes. However, I can go on and on, but I am sure that we will have other chances to speak and discuss this.
That has led you to understand foreign direct investment and potential of countries to attract this investment. What can you advise the countries of Central Asia? What should they do more of, less of, differently? And what can IFC do to support them?
Tatiana, that's a great question, and maybe I'll tackle it two ways. First, what can governments do, and then how can we help? So we all know that the lion's share of foreign direct investment that has come into Central Asia really has been focused around mining. And if you look at FDI as a percentage of gross domestic product, in the entire region, it's below both North Africa as well as the Balkans. So there's good opportunity. But I think governments and countries in Central Asia really need to focus on three things. First, and we've heard this a lot during the conference, bolstering infrastructure. So improving roads, rails, air transport across corridors within Central Asia. The second thing that they need to focus on is improving the business environment. So for foreign direct investors, transparent, simple business regulation with stable regulation is very, very important. That includes taxation, trade policy, customs duties, all of those kinds of things. I think the Uzbek government has done a very good job at making some simplification changes, and it's a model for other Central Asian countries to be looking at. The third area is really transforming the government from a producer of products into an enabler of markets. So getting the right public-private partnership frameworks, things like that will attract foreign investors. And when I look across Central Asia, I see it as a fantastic opportunity for that next big wave of growth, where we can actually, with the help of foreign direct investors, bring the right jobs with the right technical skills to the region, which is very necessary given the young population that exists in the region. So how can IFC help? So we are the private sector arm of the World Bank Group. We are the largest investor globally in development for the private sector. We do a lot of this all around the world, and we have different lines of business. So one of the areas where we have recently, in the last 5 years, developed a line of business is something that we call upstream. What do we mean by that? It means working with our World Bank colleagues and governments to create the right policy and regulation across sectors to incent foreign direct investment. So you've seen in Uzbekistan, we've done some very interesting work in the energy sector. That's an example of how we can help countries get the policy and regulation right. Once that happens, there are really maybe two other ways that IFC can help as an investor. So we have a stable of very long-standing partnerships with investors across the globe. In Uzbekistan, for example, we've invested with Masdar in the Nurnovoy solar park. Again, we've worked with Masdar in many countries around the world. We know each other and we come together as partners. We've done the same with Indorama in the cotton sector. Another very good example of where you can use IFC and our partners as demonstrations to the world that when you get your policy and regulation right and you attract foreign direct investors, others will follow. The third area where I think we can also be helpful is your public-private partnerships. And there I would actually turn to Kazakhstan, where between IFC, EBRD, and another group of lenders, we've been supporting the government in the tender and concession for the airport in Almaty, the expansion and improvement of the airport, where again, working with TAV, a long-standing IFC client, we've been able to provide $540 million of debt to that operation, despite COVID and all the downturns that have happened with travel as a result of the pandemic. So lots of different ways that IFC can help, but starting with the right policy and regulation.
Fantastic, Stephanie. Thank you very much. Let me ask the same question to Mr. Hayashi. What do you advise, based on your experience, that the countries of Central Asia can do to bolster their potential for attracting foreign direct investment? And how can you help?
Yeah, thank you very much. First, I would very much like to congratulate Deputy Prime Minister Murzakov for this excellent forum, and I am thrilled and honored to be here with you. I hope many of you know our organization, JBIC, but for those who are unfortunate enough not to know us or can tell us from JICA, we are 100% Government of Japan-owned bank to support Japanese business overseas, their export, their investments, and large infrastructure project. As it is, we have asked our customers, manufacturing companies of Japan, which country you want to invest in the near future. I have a list of top 20. Let's see where you are. Well, the first goes to China, the second goes to India, and third goes to US. So unfortunately, at this time, there are no Central Asian country at this time, but you can be hopeful. You can only go up in the ladder. And as you have done tremendously in upgrading your investment climate, and as Stephanie said, Uzbekistan has made a great stride in leveling up your business climate. So I really want to commend that. And while I do see the importance of one deregulation or another tax incentive, I want to argue that what matters crucially for business people is how those companies, how the society is oriented for. Is it aiming a society where more people will enjoy healthy and culturally rich life and can demonstrate their abilities? This is not just for a selected few people that are connected to the authority and can get rich. Well, you may think I'm talking about Russia. Well, maybe I am. Russia wasn't quite a successful story. And I'm also thinking about the people of Ukraine and their suffering with my blue and yellow attire. And coming back to what we are talking about, we really want to be in the country where people are investing, producing, and consuming under a very fair competition. I'm not asking for a certain Western European liberal democracy or market economy. It's a society that can fulfill the social development goals of UN and the government that prioritizes human development. And listening to the opening address by President Mirziyoyev, I really thought this was a kind of society that you are oriented for. And if that's the case, I really want to support the business here with Japanese companies. I'm here in Tashkent to attend this seminar, as well as to support the Siridaria 2 gas power project, along with Sojitsu and the Kyuden and the EDF and Nudam. Sojitsu and Kyuden are, I can testify, they're world-class, excellent companies with Japanese technology and Japanese integrity. And I really want to make a Japanese successful story with them. You may sometimes find Japanese companies are slow in decision-making, but once the decision made, they will stick to it. And they will work with people on the ground and and keep on working. So that's how I want to work with you, Deputy Prime Minister. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have only 10 minutes left, and we still haven't talked about regional integration, except we heard a very passionate speech of Mr. Umurzakov, which I think is going to be a great introduction. But maybe I will go left to right, and I will ask every panelist in 1 minute or 2 minutes maximum to tell me a couple things, 1 or 2 things that they think need to be done for regional integration in Central Asia. What is like the top priority for this? And I'll start with Stephanie.
So Tatiana, if COVID has taught us anything, what we've seen around the world is regionalization. So many global supply chains have broken down, and large companies are coming back to a region and rethinking those supply chains. I personally think that in Central Asia, there is a huge opportunity for us to create a regional trade zone. And if we can expand it to Pakistan and Afghanistan, you're talking about a market of more than 400 million people. You can create a middle class, you can create fast-moving consumer goods, but I think the Deputy Prime Minister said it right. We need to think about how we complement one another as countries. So first, trade corridors, north to south, east to west, and that means rail, air, and road. And then the right customs regulation to move product across borders without any kind of delay. Then the second area I would focus on is digitalization and digital infrastructure. Again, a market of 400 million people, well connected across digital infrastructure, would allow hyperscalers to come in, allow us to create a broader digital economy, electronic wallets and different kind of fintech and digital lending that could really transform the region and bring it back to its historic prevalence as the new Silk Road.
Wonderful. Господин Ускинбаев, что бы вы сказали, какой у вас был приоритет для региональной интеграции?
What is your regional priority for regional integration? We have very successful examples of regional integration, like building this railway road, motor road, Western China, in our Western region. We have also implemented the construction of the first section of this corridor. Russian Federation was also doing it from its side, expansion of this transportation corridor. Then we are working on Trans-Caspian international corridors. Kazakhstan has agreed with Azerbaijan and Turkey on expansion and extension of this transportation corridor, and in building its capacity of in order to increase the flow of goods and traffic along this corridor. And we have a lot of projects, great major project with Uzbekistan on construction of railway for passenger transportation from Tashkent to Shymkent and then to Turkestan in the southern Kazakhstan. Then we are working on, we are elaborating major interstate rail projects that will connect better our countries inside the region. Dear colleagues, I would like to thank you for mentioning the importance of development of transportation corridors. We are developing the transportation corridor in the Caspian area. We are also ready for expansion of capacity of our Caspian seaports. Annually, we are planning to handle 7 million tons per year, loading and reloading. This also provides for investors great opportunity. Thank you. Mr. Aliyev, what is your point of view? Dear participants, I agree with any thesis, any idea that Mr. Sardor Murzakov has expressed earlier. His vision of a complex development of our region as a whole, instead of individual development of any country of our region. Uzbekistan is the most active participant of our region, and Kyrgyzstan as well is also playing active role in implementation of the international regional projects like CAREC. Among the Central Asian countries plus China, we are enhancing this transportation corridor. We are ready to sign a roadmap of regional cooperation. If we turn to practical examples of cooperation, I would like to highlight the project that has been mentioned by Mr. Umurzakov, a new project on railroad that will connect Uzbekistan with China through Kyrgyzstan. And this will restore the importance of the ancient Great Silk Road. For this project, we already elaborated a set of privileges and beneficial conditions for the investors that may enjoy in the future from participation in this very important independent transit route. With our colleagues from Uzbekistan, we were discussing the multimodal route from Kashgar in western China through Kyrgyzstan to Tashkent, through the city of Osh on the border with Uzbekistan. This will be the best route, the shortest route from China to Uzbekistan through Kyrgyzstan, which will be used for transportation of food items, consumer goods, other merchandise. We are ready for cooperation with our brothers, brotherly neighbors. Mr. Umurzakov, I would like to turn to you. You have already spoken about your vision about regional cooperation, but maybe you want to add something else. Yes, I would like to thank all of my colleagues for their input. I would like to highlight what we have to do, in our opinion, in order to intensify economic and commercial cooperation among our countries in order to increase our investment potential of the Central Asia. First, we have to shift from rhetoric, from theoretical speeches into practical implementation. The team of the President Mirziyoyev has expressed its commitment to practical steps, to operations. It has been proven by real-life conditions, especially in the current global context, which is full of surprises. Secondly, during the last 30 years of our independent development of the Central Asian countries, I will speak frankly because we are openly discussing different subjects. We have to abandon the principles in our mentality in general. We have to abandon the principle of economic gains due to at the expense of the failure of other country. We should not do that. We can lose something today, however, it will bring us victory and gains in some other fields tomorrow. But it should not be an abstract gain. We should use a scientific, serious approach for estimation of our benefits and risks. Uzbekistan had relations in the past with its neighboring countries, starting with border delimitation issues. In 2016, 2017 has solved all the pending issues with neighboring countries. Somewhere we can give up something in order to have better gains in the future in some other areas. One minor example of what I have said. Who could have imagined in the past that through Afghanistan we will be able to build up the volume of our trade with Pakistan? I'm speaking about our country, about Uzbekistan in specifically. We are shipping the cargo from Uzbekistan, and it reaches through the territory of Afghanistan, the port of Karachi, in 4 days. Could have you mentioned? Nobody could imagine that just a few years ago. And we are already reaching the ports of India. We are working on these routes. I would like to say that if there is a will, there is a possibility to achieve anything. And I'm sure that there is a political will of the members of our government of the Republic of Uzbekistan. So we should use today discussions for I would like to add to the words of previous speakers. Yes, we have to take into account serious threats, global risks that create problems sometimes for further global development. As a distinguished speaker from Uzbekistan, Mr. Sardor Umurzakov, has said that only joint collaborative efforts could ensure tangible, positive results. The global economy has always has been stimulated by certain changes in the world, in the context of economic changes, political changes. So all these hardships have contributed to the further development of investment ties, business ties among the countries of the Central Asia. In particular, Tajikistan is looking at the prospects of cooperation with neighboring countries in the Central Asia from the angle of further cooperation in the field of mining, tourism, logistics, and other areas that my colleagues have mentioned today. Our main focus will be on diversifying trade and economic relations with neighboring countries in the aforementioned areas of economy. I would like to point to two key areas in regional cooperation. First is digitalization. Secondly is transition to green economy. If I speak about digitalization, I can say that the transformation that we have incurred due to COVID pandemic has reorganized the logistics ties, provision of services and supplies of different kind of goods. The tens of millions of a population of the Central Asia, unfortunately, including Tajikistan, has not stable access to the internet. The universal access to the broadband internet connection will require $6 billion, out of which $800 million US will be required for Tajikistan. in order to cover 75% of the demand. First of all, the expansion of digitalization of rural areas is required. In this regard, we have to intensify interaction among our countries on attraction of investments, on harmonization of legal framework, on creation of open and competitive telecommunications markets in the Central Asia. Also, we have to study advanced business models and advanced practices in public-private partnership in order to ensure stable internet access for the population of remote areas of Tajikistan, especially mountainous districts. Also, with regards to transition to green economy, we can say that we should promote industrialization that will be focused on reduction of CO2 emissions, and we know that the EU is shifting to introduction of the carbon tax, and we have to consider this when exporting our goods to Europe. This additional carbon tax, of course, will cause the raise of prices for exported goods, and also it will reduce the CO2 emissions in European countries, of course, but it can be used by our countries, by the Central Asian region, as a model and as an impulse for reconsideration of our own industrial production. We have a great hydropower potential in Tajikistan. However, its potential is used to less than 10%. This idea needs careful analysis and modeling. However, I believe that cooperation among the countries in this area has a great future in the context of attraction of direct foreign investments. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, so I would like to give few words to Mr. Amreev about the priority in regional cooperation. I completely agree with the opinion of other speakers, which have said that Central Asia is a common market, that it's a common economic and investment space. We should regard the Central Asia from this angle. And in order to achieve the goal of increased inflow of FDIs, many things should be done. For example, when Uzbekistan has joined our organization last year, it has its trade turnover with neighboring countries has grown threefold, fourfold in certain cases. Of course, infrastructure inside any given country is a good thing. However, we have to create common infrastructure. We have to harmonize legislative documents in order to ensure uninterrupted flow of goods and transport among our countries. We have to enhance our intercomplementary role. And also we should work further on diversification of our economies, of investment possibilities for our region. Only 10% of investments is the share of financial and telecommunication investments. The main part of investment falls into the raw material sector.
3 areas that you should be investing respectively and collectively. That is decarbonization, digitalization, and deglobalization. Well, unfortunately, globalization is losing its lure. The world is no longer flat with COVID-19, US-China trade war, and Russian aggression. There are so many disruptions in goods and services and in finance. It matters a lot now where you put your money, where your oil and gas comes from, your cotton, or your semiconductors. And Central Asia is located in the heartland of Eurasia, and you have much oil and gas and critical minerals. So I'm looking forward to see how you make best of it when business people want to pay extra to make their network resilient. On digitalization, much has been talked already, but I have a complaint. The internet is rather slow here. Yesterday, it was an important day for Japan as we were competing for the qualifying round for the World Cup. Well, thank God we made it, but I still got frustrated. I know that Toyota Tsusho Corporation, another excellent Japanese company with innovation and resources, is discussing with your Ministry of Telecommunication how to upgrade your internet with data centers and high-speed network. So I hope I won't get frustrated next time I'm in town. Lastly, on the decarbonization, well, it's a global challenge, universal challenge. But here in Central Asia, you have to upgrade your gas power so that it can make more clean and more green. And you also have to introduce more renewable energy. And I see much potential of hydrogen, green hydrogen, as well as blue hydrogen. Back in Tokyo, I drive the car of the future. It's a Toyota car named Mirai, future in Japanese, and runs on hydrogen. I hope more of you in the audience try that car of the future sometime, and so that we can talk about the future and the future cooperation of ours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me conclude by thanking our illustrious panel for their inspirational interventions, and all of you for participating and for coming here to participate in this investment forum, which is an extremely important event for Central Asia. There is neither time nor need for me to do much of summary, because I think everybody who spoke today spoke very coherently and consistently on the topics that are facing us. So let me conclude by quoting Mr. Umurzakov: let's make the best of the rest of today and make some concrete steps forward. Thank you, everyone.